Kia ora and welcome to Deep Dives with Will and Reubs.
The show that is making accounting cool again.
I'm Will.
And I'm Ruben.
And today we have an industry deep dive where we are going to be picking an industry out of the hat, one of the probably 30, 40 industries that we've met with over the years, and we're going to do a deep dive on it. We're going to run you through how this industry makes their money. We're going to be talking about what challenges they have, what technology they use, and just give you a general overview of everything you need to know about that industry. If you were to meet with someone in that industry, you're going to know how to have a really good conversation with them so they can walk away from that conversation going, damn, that guy asks good questions.
Yes, that's the kind of reaction you want to be eliciting as an accountant or a business advisor, whether it's for a prospect or a customer. When you walk out of a meeting, people should be like gobsmacked. Wow, no one has ever asked me that in that way before. So that's the kind of those are the sorts of words we're going to start giving you about the industry that we cover. But before we get into it,
we've got our quote of the week.
Yeah, Will, you have a quote for us?
I do, and this one's from John D. Rockefeller, and the quote is, "Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great."
Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. And what does that mean to you?
I mean, we only get one shot at life, and it's not a dress rehearsal. So I feel like in life, you should really be, shooting for the stars. And what a lot of people do is they get stuck in their groove and they get into the routine and they stop trying to grow and expand and really taking advantage of this little short opportunity we've got, which we call life.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's very easy to become comfortable, especially when you're good at your job, you're earning good money, life is great, life is good.
Life is good.
But have you really achieved everything you could achieve? It's very easy to sit in your comfort zone and be happy there.
That's right, and I think that's where I think both Reubs, you and I, we always try and disrupt our lives as much as we can and try and create, really push ourselves, because as soon as we feel like we're in a groove, we'll do something that disrupts that. So a perfect example is with 3 weeks notice. It was last week. With 3 weeks notice, I signed us both up to a marathon. When's the last time you've run?
The last marathon we did.
Are you serious? Yes. You've done none.
I've done about 450 metres since then.
You're serious? Okay, I didn't realise you were that bad. Okay, so I've done a bit more running than that. So in 3 weeks we've got a marathon to run, 42 kilometres, and Ruben hasn't run in about 5 months.
No. So Will called me up and he said, "Hey Reubs, what are you doing on the 16th of November?" And I said, I checked my calendar. I said, "Nothing." He said, "Do you want to do the Queenstown Marathon?" And I said, "Fuck it." Yeah. Sign us up.
So that's sort of the way we live our lives. Is we feel like we're always trying to push the boundaries and always trying to put ourselves into situations that are uncomfortable, because we know if we can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, when challenges arise, it's a lot easier to navigate through them. So for me, that's where that quote is. It's quite close to me, because it's quite easy to go, hey, this is good, I'm going to leave it like this. And what I like to do is go, fuck it, we're going great, let's go to the next step.
Let's break it down and build up better.
Let's just go harder. So that's what we do in business, that's what we do in our fitness, that's what we just do in our lives, is we're always pursuing the greatness.
Another word you and I use quite frequently is remarkable, worthy of remark.
Absolutely.
Like, what you're doing may be good, it may even be great, but is it remarkable? Would somebody see you do what you do and say that that is remarkable, I'm going to tell somebody else about what this person is doing because it's that different, that new, that great.
That's awesome, man. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah. So there's good, there's great, and then there's remarkable. And I mean, we're sort of pushing we're pushing further than the quote now. But we always try to aim for something that's remarkable.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. And so that's in both, more than just running marathons and doing silly stuff like that. But in business and the product that we're building, as we want to make sure that we're building a product that's not just good, not just great, but a product that's remarkable.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to give up the good in order to achieve the great.
Something along those lines. That'll do. Awesome, brother. Let's move on. So industry deep dives today. So we're going to pick an industry out of the hat. What are we going to get this time? I'm hoping for a product business. I'm keen to talk about some products.
Same, yeah. We've had a couple of professional services types in a row.
I think I might have one.
What do you got?
What have I got? Hey, I actually did. I got wholesale.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, wholesale.
That's a really broad industry.
It is, yeah.
So we're talking about wholesalers. What are wholesalers, Will?
Sweet, awesome. All right, cool. Wholesalers. So wholesalers are people that buy products generally from the manufacturer.
Yep.
and then they sell them to generally a retailer. So they're the middleman.
Yep.
So with a supply chain, let's look at a really broad supply chain. Let's say you have a manufacturer, then you'll have the manufacturer will sell to a distributor. The distributor will sell to a wholesaler.
Yes.
The wholesaler will sell to the retailer.
Yep.
And then the retailer will sell to the customer.
Sells to us.
So that is a supply chain from start to finish. Now, not every business has all those steps in it. Sometimes you'll have the manufacturer that will sell straight to a wholesaler, that will sell to the retailer, that will sell to the consumer, or you may have sometimes manufacturers will also retail straight to the end customer. And that's so I've got one of my side businesses is called Hypopack, which we manufacture glucose sachets, and we put them in a bag with a gluten-free, let me try that again. A gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free biscuit.
Yeah.
Put them in a bag
people
together.
that have, say, diabetes. Is that right?
Diabetics, correct, yeah. So if a diabetic has low blood sugars, we have what we call a Hypopack, and what they do is they drink the glucose sachet, they wait 15 minutes, then they have the biscuit.
Right.
So we sell these through to hospitals. So we manufacture it. So we contract manufacture the glucose sachets, and we contract manufacture the biscuits.
Yep.
And then we all the product gets sent to where we are in Wellington, so our HQ in Wellington, and then we assemble them, and then we have different distribution chains. So some of them we sell through hospitals.
Yep.
So that would be where we are wholesaling to our into the hospitals, but we also have an online website. I suppose all websites are online, but we have an online retail. So we've got a website built on the Shopify platform. So as the manufacturer, we're also selling to the end consumer. So what I'm trying to say here is there's in a supply chain, there's a lot of different steps, and it doesn't strictly have to go from the manufacturer through all those little steps to the end consumer.
Correct.
So, but what we want to focus on here is the wholesalers.
Yeah. So a wholesaler may, depending on what country you're in, we're down here in New Zealand at the moment, quite a way away from a lot of parts of the world. We don't manufacture a lot of things ourselves in this country, so there are a lot of wholesalers active in this country, and same with Australia. You may not manufacture everything that in your own country, so you're going to have a wholesaler who imports that from overseas manufacturers, stores it somewhere in a warehouse or a container or somewhere, and then resells that to retailers, and that describes a wholesaler.
Exactly, and I think a common misconception that that people get between wholesale and retail is not a misconception as such, but what is the difference is more the question. And the easiest way to think about it is, what does that transaction with the customer look like?
Yes.
As a wholesaler, my transaction is generally through an invoice.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to sell you something at a wholesale level, I'm going to provide you with the goods, with a packing slip, and then I'm going to send you an invoice, and then you'll pay that invoice generally on the 20th of the month following the invoice. Some terms. It could be on delivery, it could be 7 days, it could be 20th month following,
whatever.
Or if you get a really, really bad supply contract, like we've got one with Hypopack, it's 60 days.
Ouch.
So we have to bankroll that for 60 days, which is painful. Shouldn't have signed that contract, but hey, you learn these things in business, and we'll be discussing this in one of the failures and fuck ups. Supply terms or payment terms rather.
So that's how. But whereas if you're a retailer,
back on track. So with a retailer, what you'd be doing is you're dealing with a FPOS cash check. If you're in some parts of the world, I think they still accept check.
Yes.
So that's the difference. Is wholesalers, they provide packing slips and invoices, whereas in a retailer, you're paying for those goods right over the counter.
Wholesalers also characterised by having closer relationships with their customers. A wholesaler typically knows who their customers are. It's not random most of the time. If I'm wholesaling, like for your instance, you're wholesaling Hypopacks, you know the hospitals you're dealing with, the people at those hospitals, how much they buy, and you may have a contract for supply. Whereas if I'm a retailer, I don't know who's going to walk in my door, and I may know some of them, and some of them may be closer than others, but in retail it's a lot more anonymous, so that the relationship there is perhaps more anonymous, I guess, in a retail environment than it is in a wholesale environment.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's take, for example, coffee. So if you are driving through Sanson,
Okay.
Right, you're driving through Sanson. And
Yeah, which is an hour north.
It's about an hour north from Waitaki.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're driving through there, and then there's a coffee cart on the right-hand side.
Yes.
There's also Z, but I like the coffee over the road.
Okay, yeah.
I go in there, they don't know who I am, and then I go buy a coffee, and then I pay for my coffee, and then I continue my drive up to Papakura to go and see Reubs. That is retail, right? They don't know who I am, but I've had a transaction. Now, if I was to go to a coffee wholesaler and say I'd like to buy some coffee, what they'd first do is they'd hand me a form to fill out.
Yeah, totally.
And they'd want to know supply terms. They'd probably want to also know references. They want to know credit references.
Yep.
And they'd want to know my company registration number. And then I'd need to agree to supply terms. And then I'd have to look at pricing structures.
Yep.
There's a long. Imagine if I had to pull over to buy a coffee and fill out a long set of forms to buy a coffee.
Yep.
So that's the difference between retail and wholesale. Is generally in wholesale you're going to have, as Rube said, you're going to know your customers because they've filled out forms and you're going to have a relationship with them.
Totally. What kind of challenges do wholesalers face typically? What are some of the major ones?
There are so many. Like any industry, they have their challenges.
Yeah.
But a really big one in wholesale is inventory. So making sure that you have your minimum order quantities captured. So let's say I wholesale 100 different products. So I have 1,000 customers and I've got 100 products. Now what I want to make sure is that have I got enough products so if a customer orders, I haven't run out of stock, because what I have, it's called lead time. So the lead time is the time between you placing an order with your customer, your supplier.
Yes.
How long does it take to get here? So, for example, if I'm ordering from China, it might be a 3-month lead time.
On a boat.
On a boat, exactly, yeah. So, if I was going to order from China, maybe they need to manufacture it and then send it over here by boat, and I've got a 3-month lead time. So, I need to make sure that I have at least 3 months of stock set aside. So, when I go, right, well, I've got 4 months of stock left. Now I want to create an order with my supplier because I know that it's going to take me 3 months to get here. Because otherwise what happens is I start pissing off my customers because they can no longer supply their customers because I've run out of stock, and they'll find another wholesaler who can supply them on time.
Totally.
So that's a massive, massive challenge for wholesalers, especially if you're importing, because those lead times really do get extended.
Absolutely. Another difficulty that they face around that is you can't just hold too much stock, because every dollar of stock you have sitting in a warehouse is a dollar that's not in your bank account. So you can't just fill up a warehouse and let it sit forever, because that stuff may expire, it may become obsolete, and it's not in your bank account. That money is not working for you while the stock is sitting on the shelf in your warehouse.
That's right. So it's better to have cash in the bank than it is to have stock sitting on the shelf.
Absolutely, more liquid, eh?
Correct. And if you think about from the perspective of if you are in a business that's sort of in that startup phase, you may have an overdraft facility in place to have that stock on the shelf. So it actually costs you 6, 7, 8, 9% in interest to have that stock sitting there ready to go for your customers.
Totally, as well as the physical costs of rent, etc.
Rent, because
you're not going to store it outside most of the time, and it's something you're paying somebody to put it there.
That's right. So that's certainly a big challenge. Is how much stock do I actually hold?
Totally.
Another one that springs to mind is the if you are importing, is all of the documentation that goes with the customs documentation. There's a lot that goes into it. There's import taxes and the actual administration involved in that. So once you've done it, and you know what to do, and you really want to make sure if you're starting out in wholesale that you document these processes. So it's a really good idea to get a logistics company involved. So logistics companies are companies that step in and manage. So for example, I might go to a logistics company and say, hey, I want to import 4 pallets of coffee mugs.
Yes.
Because I'm going to wholesale coffee mugs. So I'm going to buy them at $2 from China, and I'm going to sell them here for $15. Now, you got to bear in mind that that's not full margin, because you're paying $2 per unit, but by the time they come in here, you've paid for freight. So now freight could be $3 per unit, so now it's $5 a unit, and then I've got the interest on pay. There's a lot of other costs. But I'm getting a little bit sidetracked. But what I'm trying to say is the actual process of bringing that product into your warehouse, there's a lot of admin that goes into that, and that's a challenge if you're doing it for the first time. Is how do you do it? What does that documentation look like? You need to get importation numbers, you need to get there's a lot of registration codes and things. Working with a logistics company is a fantastic idea. So that's just something to be aware of as well as another challenge.
Good advice. Yeah, so touching on the costs involved in bringing your product in, how it's not just what you pay for it from the supplier, that's not the true product cost, is it?
Correct, that's right. Yeah. So there's the raw product cost, and then there's what we call average landed cost. Now, Reubs, can you explain to us what average landed cost is?
I can. Maybe we should cover it metrics that matter, but I'll touch on it here.
Yeah, sorry.
How about that? So with wholesalers, a lot of them dealing in very high volumes and lower margins. Typically, they're dealing with a larger quantity of products that they're buying and selling, but at a lower margin than what a retailer may earn, because a retailer is having it sitting on their shelves and may not be turning through so many. So when you're dealing with low margins, what becomes very important to a wholesaler is the true cost of that product. You can't afford to sell 1,000 units of these coffee cups at $6 each, when the true cost of that may be $6.50. You're going to quickly be, deeply in debt.
Exactly, yeah, because you might be buying the product at $2.
Yeah.
So the product cost is $2, but the cost to import each of them is $4.50. So then we're trying to sell cups at $6, but it cost us $6.50 by the time I've imported them.
Absolutely.
So it's things like that.
Not a lot of wholesalers are doing that very well. So wholesalers that you're dealing with, whether you're an accountant or a business advisor, or if you're a wholesaler, it's really important that for every single product you deal with, you understand not only what you pay for it from the supplier and the currency of the supplier, etc., the currency adjustments, but also what it costs per unit to get that to your warehouse in order that you can sell it. Yeah,
exactly.
So we'll touch on more of that in the average landed cost and calculating that, and how to do that, and tools for that in a separate episode on metrics that matter.
Sounds good.
All right, so that's challenges on wholesale. Any other challenges you can think of that we've come across over the years with dealing with wholesalers?
That's a good question. There's heaps. So what have we touched on? We've touched on the administration of all the documentation. We've talked on the lead time.
Yeah.
We've also talked on calculating costs. Yeah, the costs. Another thing that springs to mind is the dealing with returns. So, for example, you sell a bunch of products. Let's talk about like food wholesale.
Okay.
This is a really good one. So if you're I'm sort of getting into manufacturing here, to be fair.
I've got an example from furniture. So I've got a lot of furniture wholesalers, and furniture is a very bulky item. So when you're taking the cost of importing furniture, you may pay $50 for this table out of China, US, for example. But then by the time you get this table to a country like New Zealand or Australia, it's taken up space in a container somewhere, and that container may be $3,000 to ship that 20-foot container. So you have to take that $3,000 that the container company's paid you, charged you to get it here, and then divide it up by the number of tables you bought it in on that container. So this container, although it costs you $50 US, may end up costing you $150. And so when you're dealing with bulky product, returns, you're not going to send this $50 table back to the supplier in China, are you? If the customer brings it back and goes, oh, it's damaged, or arrived damaged, you're not going to go and ship that back. So you need a way to track returns so that you can facilitate that with your customer, but also you're not going to be shipping it back, so you've got to have a way of disposing of those returns. And I dealt with a furniture company, pretty big brand, but they just had this enormous mountain that they just like chuck stuff into, and that was their returns management. What a nightmare. Yeah.
It's sad the amount of waste we create in the world, but that's a whole other topic.
But this is obviously for an accounting perspective. They're essentially just writing it off when there's a customer return for an item and exchanging it.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a lot of admin involved in managing returns, because you've got to adjust the inventory and you need to reimburse the customer, and sometimes that's with cash or some sort of account equivalent.
I've got one more challenge that I can think of, and this one's sort of outside the accounting realm and in the logistics realm. It's more in wholesale. You'll find that maybe 9 out of 10 customers are awesome, but there'll be 1 out of 10 customers that is going to ruin your life. They're going to be awful to deal with, and that's just how they do business. And what I think's really important is to be able to identify. As a business owner, it's important to identify those customers. If you're trying to go to sleep at night and all you can think about is this customer and what they said to you that day and how they spoke to you.
Yeah, or that return that they asked for that you haven't done, or they're complaining about this delivery being late and that sort of thing. Maybe that's a good prompt to be either cutting them away or very defining your customer in terms. Like if you say you're going to deliver it within 2 days and you're not, don't say you're going to do it within 2 days.
Reubs actually brings up a really good point. There's two things that are happening here. One is that this could be a customer who is giving you very, very good feedback and you're getting offended by that feedback because they're right. And then what you need to do is you need to go and fix parts of your business based on their feedback. That's option one. And those are good customers, even though they are annoying, especially in the early stages, because if they are getting frustrated with your service or your delivery, that's an opportunity to go and fix that. And then what happens is they'll become your raving fan because they have expectations right up here for everyone. And if you can deliver there, they're going to think that you're magic. Now, they're the other sort that just like to complain and make your life difficult. Now, these customers here, you need to know when to get rid of them, because what they can do is they can consume so much energy in your life and you can't focus on running your business and growing your business and doing what you need to do because you're so fixated on how they are treating you. So I think it's important to understand which customer it is. Is it someone who's actually giving you really good feedback that you need to action, or is this someone that is just a pain in the ass and they need to be cut?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, you got the things we measure about customer performance around like how much money they spend with us, how much money do we make from them in terms of margin from that customer, do they pay their bills on time, but then you've got all those intangible things that like how much do they stress me and my staff out.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be stressed all the time, and there's things that stress you out in business. One of them is cash flow. That's a real key one, and that's what stresses a lot of people out. But there's also the communication that you have with your customers or your suppliers, and often a lot of the stress actually comes from dealing with people who are not very pleasant to deal with. And if they are consuming you, just get rid of them and then focus on the people that you enjoy working with, because you need to be having fun. You want to get out of bed and want to go to work, and if you don't want to do that, there's probably a customer who's ruining your life, and you got to think, getting rid of this customer, is this going to break my business? And if it is, you're probably in a situation where you've got one large customer, and that's straight away you're in a risky position.
Yeah, totally.
But I just wanted to touch on that because I think that's another part of business. Yes, there's accounting, yes, there's these metrics, and yes, there's logistics, but there's also this emotional side of things and how people's well-being is, and a lot of that comes down to the relationships you have with your customers and suppliers. So it's important to sort of talk about that.
That's really good business advice. Maybe we could elaborate that more in the creative disruption startup episodes. Where I like to say that you choose your customers, or that you train your customers. So that'd be a really good topic to talk to about what we mean by that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a lot to talk about this, so let's touch on it.
Yeah. What kind of technologies would you recommend or typically see a wholesaler using as well as their accounting system?
Well, the good news about being in wholesale is that there is excellent technology available. So when we're looking at a lot of other industries, I'm just going to say advertising, for example, there isn't like a really, really nice, tidy solution that does like everything you want. So there's a few spreadsheets and things floating around. The good news is wholesale, you've got so many tools at your fingertips.
There is no excuse to be running a wholesale business from a spreadsheet anymore, because the price and the quality of the tools and apps available now is just it's a minimum standard.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a few options and then I'm going to give you my dream solution.
Yeah, fire away.
Right, so from an accounting perspective, it's quite clear we're fans of Xero here. So Xero is the accounting solution. So I want you to think, like, visualize apps sitting on top of each other.
Okay.
So think about
like this or like that.
Like this. So I think about in terms of an integration. A stack.
Okay,
yeah.
An app stack.
So Xero's at the bottom. So that's your accounting. So we're going to have workflow go from the top and transactions land in Xero. So Xero's at the bottom. So from there, above that, we're going to have inventory management. So with inventory management, we've got a number of solutions. I'm just going to fire a few out. We have Unleashed.
Yep.
We have TradeGecko. We have Deer.
Yep.
We have Sin7.
Yep.
Am I missing anyone?
Those are probably the major ones.
Those are
and Xero itself also offers its own inventory solution, which is very basic, but may suit some wholesalers just starting out.
That's
perhaps.
right, yeah. Xero's got a very light solution, but in terms of actually, like, if you want to really seriously run a wholesale business, those are the sort of the four there. So just again, Unleashed, TradeGecko, Deer, and Sin7.
Yeah.
Now, so sitting above that, you've also got a website. So you may have, with the website, it could be a website that customers can go online and order, or they could log into what we call a B2B portal.
Yeah, what's a B2B portal?
A business-to-business wholesale portal. Okay. So what they can do is a customer can log in with their credentials. They can see all the products that you have, and they're going to see their pricing.
Right.
So different customers have different prices, right?
Yes.
So when they log in, they're going to see their pricing, they're going to see the quantities available, and they can place their order. That will take that order and put it into the inventory system, ready to be picked, packed, and dispatched.
Right.
And then what it'll also do is create the invoice in that inventory system, which is a really, really clean way to get customers to order. And it just avoids the number of phone calls, and I hope there's no faxes happening anymore. If you've got a fax machine and you're in the wholesale business, what are you doing? Use a B2B portal, and it cuts down the admin. So imagine if you've got 100 orders coming in a day, and then you've got someone sitting there plugging these orders in. You could have your customers plugging those orders in for you, and then what you're doing is you're cutting down that administration time. So that's a huge, huge reason to look at using one of these solutions that I've just listed.
Totally. Well, another really good thing about the B2B portals that are out there is that from the customer's perspective, your customer's perspective, is they can view inventory on hand sometimes. You can let them see what is available, so they can get an idea about their planning and say, well, I know, ABC wholesaler only has 8 units on hand. I know I'm going to need at least 5, so I'm going to secure those now.
That's right, exactly. So back to that tech stack we're talking about. Well, it's a tech stack, isn't it? So at the very top, think about like the B2B portal or the website sitting at the top. So those are where the orders go in. Those orders then drop down into the next layer, which is your inventory management, which does all of your purchase orders. It does all of your inventories, stock adjustments. It does all of your pick and pack, does all your dispatch, and all of your logistics and inventory management is done there. And then those invoices then drop down into your accounting system, which is Xero. So think about the 3 sort of technology pieces sitting on top of each other. Right. And there's one other thing that I want to mention here, which sort of sits out the side of this, which is your shipping system.
Yes.
So you have a great app is Go Sweet Spot.
Okay.
So Go Sweet Spot, what that will do is it'll look at when you have created a order in your inventory system. It'll take that order and it's automatically going to allocate it a shipping reference, and then it's going to communicate with the courier company.
I see. Yeah.
And then the courier, and then you can order the courier straight from the app. The courier then turns up and it prints your labels for you. You stick your labels on and it's dispatched to the customer, and then you can track it all the way through to the customer. Nice. And you can even set it up so it's got email correspondence based on where that item is. It's a very, very, very clean solution. So we've got 4 pieces of technology there. We've got the website / B2B portal.
Yep.
We have the inventory system. We also have the shipping system, which integrates with your couriers, and then finally your accounting system. So if you're in the wholesale world, that's sort of the tech stack you want to use. Now, the solution we use at Hypopack, all of these apps are incredible. TradeGecko, Deer, Unleashed, Sin7, all very, very, very good apps. Far better than the spreadsheet. So what I'm about to give you is, this is what we use at Hypopack, and it works really well for us. So we use Shopify for the website. So our website is built on the Shopify platform. That integrates really cleanly with Unleashed, which we use for our inventory management. That integrates beautifully with Go Sweet Spot, and that integrates with Xero. So I've got 4 apps there, integrate really nicely, and we barely ever get any issues with it.
Wow.
So that runs really clean.
So right from a purchase, you basically have the whole thing automated that updates your inventory, tells the courier company to come pick it up, sends the invoice to the customer, and notifies them throughout, basically.
That's right. And we pay a monthly subscription of, no more than maybe 300 New Zealand dollars a month for everything. Probably just over $300 a month. And what that does is it runs a completely integrated system. So imagine having to do all of that manually. It'd be
a nightmare.
A lot of work.
Yeah, I see a lot of with talking about the Go Sweet Spot or the shipping company solution, a lot of wholesalers they have separate portals that they've got to log into in order to organise this stuff. So that's automating that part, basically. We were taking out of the inventory solution and taking that delivery information. It's already in there.
And
it's telling the courier company, instead of us having to tell the courier company what to pick up, how many packages there are, where they're going, who, and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So really, really good idea to get that sort of tech stack implemented. And for the monthly subscription of $300 to $400. If you've got bigger organisations, those subscription fees go up. If you're doing multi-currency, again, it goes up. But it's really a really good investment.
All right. So I think that's have we covered a lot of different things there in wholesale?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Right. Hopefully that's given you enough tools as an accountant or a business advisor or a wholesaler yourself to take a look at your own business or your customer's business and have a look at some of those areas around the technology being used, the challenges being faced, and how we might address those. Yeah.
Spot on. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for listening in, guys, and we'll see you in the next week where we're going to be looking at metrics that matter.
Metrics that matter. See you there.